Ryan's still here too, and Dwayne. I think you've had an opportunity to review this document. Is that what your expectations was with regard to the amended copy?
I believe the hospital has an ambulance budgeted for 2013 and then plans for 2015. That would be my only question on this.
Okay.
But I think we're clear. The hospital's buying 2 in this 5 years and the county's buying 3. And I think...
Right, but the original agreement essentially was to alternate.
Alternate, correct.
As shown on the top.
Correct.
Then I put down the amended, the way I thought the amended was, but you're saying you think the amended would be Parkview Whitley in 13
and 15.
and 15. Okay.
And
okay.
then the county would have 1 in 16.
Okay. Well,
that's the way I understood it.
When having an opportunity to look at the community benefit agreement, it just, to us, it wasn't that clear. So
under the first agreement, the amendment, Whitley would be buying 3 ambulances between 2012 and 16 and Parkview 2, and just the order was changed in the amended.
Correct.
Yeah, and
that's what we had hoped for.
And that's what the agreement does say.
It does say that?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. It says, sometimes it's confusing to read these because when we read hospital, that's not the same as saying Parkview Whitley, and you sort of get confused about who's buying what. And that's part of the problem, but it says very plainly in it, by this agreement, the hospital commits to purchasing no more than 2 ambulances. That's what it said before, I think.
Yeah, but I will challenge you on that.
Go ahead.
The first 2. You make your money a little easier when it's the time. But when you write up here, Whitley County to buy the 2nd ambulance with equipment does not mature until after the hospital has purchased an ambulance. In this case, we are purchasing 2 new trucks, and the Parkview hasn't bought any. So that statement, if I understand the word mature right, means there should be some action on Parkview. I don't care if you want to go all the way down and we buy the first 3 years in Parkview, but I'm saying this at the top is misleading.
Well, first of all, I don't believe I drafted that, Mr. Commissioner. I was given that to look at and to see if it said what we needed to say. Parkview. And I am not arguing for the sense of the agreement, okay? I'm not advocating it. I'm just, what I was asked to do is, I was asked the question, does this change who's responsible for how many ambulances? And I don't think it does from the original agreement. Again, that I didn't draft, but you guys signed.
It sure could budget-wise.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't, but in terms of responsibility for how many, just purely numbers, Tom, that's all I'm saying. You're responsible for the same amount of numbers. Yeah, there are different budget years. I can see that.
We are amending the agreement. So there should be some sort of something in black and white, rather than saying we just, if you have an ambulance budgeted for 13, do you also have one budgeted for 14?
Have one budgeted for 13 and 15.
What happens when the year 14 comes up?
Well, I think in the original agreement, the county was going to buy 1 then. In this amended agreement, I believe is what was proposed is the county would be buying that ambulance, that 2014 ambulance this year.
No. It says here, Parkview, Whitley will buy an ambulance in 2013 and another in 2014. You have it?
That is what I said, but he explained that that's...
See, we've had very little discussion with this, the commissioners, to be honest with you. And that's what I'm trying to get down to. And the reason, basically, is the fact that our ambulances are unsafe with 130 and 140,000 miles on them. unsafe to the EMTs, unsafe to the passengers. And checking around other counties that Parkview is involved in, their vehicles have more miles on it. Now, are we rough or too tough and rough on our vehicles? And then my concern is if we go and buy 2 this year, are both those ambulances gonna have to be replaced in the same year down the line? And the reason I say that, I can remember back when the highway said, well, we're not gonna buy any trucks for 2 years, so we didn't. Down the road, about 4 or 5 years later, we got nailed with buying 2 or 3 trucks again the same year, and we couldn't do it. So, I just want it to be understood, and if 2014 is in Parkview's budget, or why would we want to go ahead and amend this thing today? And then you come back and say, well, no, the agreement was 2000. Evidently, you're willing to switch back from a year and let Whitley County buy 2 before you buy any. I know we'll buy 3 in 5 years, and you'll buy 2.
Yes.
But I just don't know what years Parkview's gonna buy.
It's my understanding that they have it budgeted for 2013 and 2015.
Thank you. Okay. Because we're gonna get questioned on this next week, I know. And I want to have some indication of where this is going. George, how do you understand? Or Don, go ahead. I've had my say on it.
Well,
Maybe I'm the only one, I guess I'm the only one that has a concern about it, so.
no, I have concern also, but I guess right now, originally we had figured each one of us would buy an ambulance every other year. So
That was the agreement we reached last.
but then I understand that the ambulances that we have high mileage on them, and we really need 2
We have
at this time.
We have 3 ambulances that have between 139 to 125,000.
And that's high mileage? I mean, are we doing a lot of maintenance on those?
Not as much as we were in last year. Saying that, we do have one that needs a major engine needs an engine replacement. I was contacted by the commissioners, by Don, early in the year, wanting to know about switching this year of purchasing an ambulance with seated funds. Don, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's
That was
right.
basically
That's
our
absolutely right.
conversation.
Absolutely
Wanted to know
right.
what I thought.
It's a seated plan that I had presented to the
Right.
commissioners.
Okay, that's fine. We're gonna have to do a little amend this agreement because, as you point out, it doesn't follow what we agreed upon last year. County's still buying 3 ambulances, hospital's still buying 2 in 5 years. Does get us to replace an older vehicle sooner. That's going to drive down operation costs. I was then asked to come up with specifications for an ambulance. We've done that. We solicited some proposals from 4 different companies. I can tell you which one I would recommend us purchasing if we get to that point. And that's why I thought I was here.
I think probably my concern out of this is the reason that we did it every other year was so that most of the time, well, we've always taken ambulances from Whitley County Foundation, Community Foundation. They've always paid for the ambulances. Now that we're going to do the extra ambulance, it comes out of seated funds. And I understand that if we've got safety problems, that's not an issue, but I guess that was my concern, is it's costing the county where Foundation was paying for them originally.
That is correct.
Okay,
And don't get me wrong, I don't want unsafe trucks out there.
right.
Well,
If you feel, and Don feel, that they're unsafe, I guess you guys are the authorities that can tell us, because I don't want that either. I don't want to come back and say, well, stupid Red Lake, he wouldn't let us buy the next, so there was a wreck. You could have a wreck with a brand new one.
Yes, you can.
I saw one of our new sheriff cars go down by my house the other day, and I'm surprised he even got it shut down at the T-road. It depends upon how you drive some of these vehicles.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm not running on you, I'm not running on Don, I'm just saying, before we make another decision, let's be sure what we're making. So you're scheduled for 13 and 15,
Yes.
okay?
I know those 2 years, there's an ambulance budgeted by us.
And I'm gonna have to back up a little bit, and I'm sorry, we're putting out information to the public here that sort of runs backwards, and I appreciate that. But a year ago, we looked at a different style of EMS. And I guess I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you got nothing else out of that report, I think the report clearly stated that the county or someone had to do something about the ambulances. They needed to be replaced. If you didn't take anything else out of the report, I thought that was pretty firm. And with that in mind, and having done seated for the first time this year, I thought this was a golden opportunity to do that. And that's when I did contact Dwayne. Dwayne did not contact me. I contacted him and said, I think we can have some seated funds and we can speed up this process. That was my only agenda, was to speed up the process. Now since, as of last week, I've learned that, and I probably should have known this, but I've learned that seated funds must be appropriated by the county council. That said, we've never done it before. I'm not sure why we're starting now, but that's neither here nor there. That's the way it is. Seated funds must be appropriated by the county council.
That's the way it has always been. 12 years as commissioner, we have always had to get approval from council to spend money. And I don't know, I thought I made that clear, but I made mistakes before, evidently. I made that one, but you always have to get the plan approved. Then you have to go back, if you're gonna spend 50,000 on something, they have to approve that.
Okay.
So,
Okay?
if you misunderstood that, I apologize too. So,
Well, yeah, obviously I did. You don't need to apologize. I have somewhere here, I have a list of everything that's been paid out of the seated funds this year. Yeah, I really do. And your stuff, well, I've mixed stuff up. It's right here. Okay, so from seated funds this year expended has been 70, I'm just rounding off, 76,000 EDC, 11,900 to GIS, 97,800 to roads, nothing to Parkview Whitley, 25 to Council on Aging. I guess I don't recall any of those having gone through the council to be appropriated. So, you know, if that's my fault, that's my fault. But apparently, everything has to go through the council now to be appropriated. So that said, I guess what we're going to do here today, if you so wish, and if you don't wish, that's fine too. Dwayne has brought the information with him on the quotes for the ambulance, and we either accept his quotes and pass it on to the council, or we don't. So I'll leave that up to this group. But is that right, Dwayne? Did you bring us
Yes, I
quotes?
just got a summary for you. I didn't bring the actual binders.
Okay.
That's fine. You had 2 that were submitted, one proposal from Lifestar and Van Wert, and one from Mark up in Elkhart. There's almost a $20,000 difference between the 2 proposals. The one that most meets the specification and with the least dollar amount is the one I suggest we go with as work with Lifestar in Van Wert.
How much is that?
Just under 139,000. That does not factor in the trade-in value of a vehicle that we would exchange in the process. So it would be under 139,000.
So the most we pay is 139,000.
Most you would pay is 139,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you
it'd
get,
be around 160, 159.
And the other one was 158.5.
really? Really?
I just,
$1,000 more.
yes,
Dwayne, who was the other one? Lifestar and
Mark, M-A-R-Q-U-E. Got it.
And this will be the ambulances that we take out of seated, or the ambulance that we take out of seated.
That's the only ambulance we're dealing with right now, is the
Okay.
seated ambulance.
Okay.
We don't really deal with the, Tom and his committee deals with the other, with the Whitley County Community Foundation.
And I guess, again, my only concern is, for Dwayne, do we need this extra ambulance that we're taking out of seated? Is it a safety issue? I guess that's my biggest concern.
Don is correct. The consultant that came in last year said that his would recommend $100,000 or 100,000 mile replacement schedule. Years ago, we had another consultant that came in and said he would recommend a 200,000 mile replacement schedule. Obviously, the more miles, the more repair costs, they escalate.
I
Is it
understand
a
that, but
safety issue?
That's what I'm asking. Is it a
I-
safety issue?
Yes, we have a truck broke down now, but if the vehicle, I can't sit here and tell you this is a safety issue.
Do other counties, do they replace at 100,000 or, I
No.
guess, I have no other.
Okay. If that's the case, Dwayne, when do they replace, do you know?
I do know the truck that Noble's replacing this year has in excess of 200,000. And I don't have information on Huntington and LaGrange.
Okay.
I can
Who
cer-
buys the ambulances in the other three systems?
County buys in Noble and LaGrange, and the hospital buys in Huntington, and then over in Fort Wayne now, they have a few ambulances also.
Okay.
Do you know if Huntington replaces at 100,000, 200,000?
I'm sure it's in excess of 150.
So I guess what we're looking for here then is really a motion to send a favorable recommendation to the council, or to not send well, I guess, drop it at this point. It really would be immaterial. Dwayne, either way, I appreciate all the work you've done, and you've done it on my direction, so I appreciate that.